welcome to Cash Flow Savannah. This is episode 3. We are still in the beginning phases of this podcast. I am here with Chandler Newman, my partner in crime at many opportunities. Every week we seem to find trouble here in Savannah, Georgia. Chandler, you doing okay?
I'm doing good. I can't believe it's episode 3 already.
Yeah.
Uh,
Many more to come. We have a lot to say, and a lot is going on, actually. It's been very easy to find content.
yeah, I think we have a good episode coming in today about short-term rentals. And I know you and I talk about it all the time and what's going on because it's just so, we don't really know what's going on. I don't think anybody knows what's going on in this market. It's been kind of crazy.
Yes, Chandler and I work in the industry of short-term rentals, so we're pretty up to date on the legalities and what's going on in the market. But there are a lot of changes every day. We will get to short-term rentals very shortly. I also wanted to cover some stuff in the news, which I have found very interesting. One thing I wanted to throw at you, Chandler, and get your thoughts on is that Savannah, well, Georgia, the state of Georgia, but we're specifically here to talk about Savannah. Georgia is now going to be allowing medical cannabis dispensaries. So this is the big deal. This is a big step for the state. I think Georgia's probably a little behind other states in this topic. So there have been several applications for licensure, and some of those are in Chatham County, so that affects us. And it is time to get ready for this. So with regards to real estate, my question for you as a as a real estate investor, how do you feel about a cannabis dispensary? If you had some commercial real estate in a prime location and a cannabis dispensary came over and said, hey, we want to sign a 5-year lease. What are your thoughts on this? Do you think this is a good we're not talking politics, but do you think it's a good real estate play? Do you think it's a bad real estate play? Do you think they have a solid business opportunity, or do you think it's a little shaky and maybe as a landlord, you'd be a little nervous?
I think if they're the first ones in, they'd be okay. I think if they're the first ones in, I think they'll be okay because a lot of people kind of get that new excitement.
Mm-hmm.
I think after a while it kind of wears off. I don't know about a 5-year lease if that's going to work out for them. But it's the same thing with it kind of reminds me of like CBD,
Yeah.
but you see them everywhere, and it seems like they're staying in business.
Did it seem like they
So,
popped up everywhere then and then kind of shrank a little bit? That's
mhm.
how I feel about it. So
Yep.
again, looking at it from a landlord perspective, when you're doing a commercial lease, we don't really want a short-term lease. We want them to get in there and stay. That's really the beauty of commercial. Build a business, they always come. So that's a great point. I didn't think about the cannabis. I think for myself, I do manage some commercial real estate, and I'm very careful to check out the business that's going in. So if it was, let's say it's a company that's working, they've been in Colorado for 6 years, or I don't know how long it's been legal in other places, but I feel like I would be pretty comfortable if it was like a national organization and they had some history. But if it was kind of a brand new, business that they just wanted to get in on it, I might be a little nervous. What are your thoughts on that?
No, I agree with that. Somebody that's well established is way better than somebody
Yeah.
that's new and knows what they're doing. Um, I don't know too much about that business and
Right.
how
I don't either.
it's selling. Maybe if I knew somebody that was doing it, I'd talk to them beforehand. But
Yep.
I can see how it can be a good business for sure.
Yes, I hear they do very well, but yeah, who knows? My other thing that I wanted to bring up with regards to this industry, and I could be completely uneducated on this, but my understanding on the cannabis industry is that at a federal level, it is still not legal. So the states are allowing things and states are doing things, but federally, it's technically not okay. Like I think we need like a presidential order or a signed whatever. Again, I'm not political. I have no intention of being. So because it's not legal federally, cannabis operations cannot use banks. Have you heard this, Chandler?
I have no idea.
I used to listen to some things about the industry, and I know people that have invested in it, and I know it's a huge, huge cash heavy business, which as a business owner myself, I don't like to touch cash. I'm a big on safety.
Yeah. Uh-huh.
I don't want to earn cash. And so these guys, because they're unbankable, they're legally unbankable, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
So my understanding of the industry is they have these giant safes in the back, and everyone pays in cash. They're paying their employees in cash. They're paying their vendors in cash, and then I'm going to assume they're paying their rent in cash because
I
we're
would say,
looking at this as an investor. So that would be one of my first questions, because I don't take cash. I'm uncomfortable with it. I definitely wouldn't drive around and pick it up. Now, a larger company, that's established, I mean, I might consider it if they brought it to me or if they deposited it in the bank for me. I don't know. I'd have to think about it. I'm not saying it's a no on cash,
yeah.
but I get very nervous when I think about very large amounts of cash wandering around that I'm responsible for.
Hmm.
So,
A lot of cash to keep up with.
right.
I
Yeah,
wonder if
exactly.
I'd be willing to bet some of them are doing like Bitcoin and all that.
You know what? That's a great point. That's very possible. Yeah, it probably does create an opening for things like that. That's a great point. So anyway, from a landlord's perspective, we want a great tenant and we want to make sure we're getting paid. So those are two things that really come to mind. When I first saw the article, I said, they're coming, they're going to need space.
Yeah.
And, we're hearing a lot nationally about how, commercial real estate is in trouble, and, be careful. And I do understand that loans are starting to reset as far as interest rates. But here in Savannah, we're really not seeing a decrease in commercial space at all. We're seeing it being built left and right.
Yeah. No, it's Savannah's a building market right now. I mean, there's so much going on. Even right outside of Savannah, they're building it looks like apartment complexes to
Mhm.
me. Have you seen that right outside of Savannah, kind of headed towards Tybee?
Yes. Tons of apartments on the east and west side. And I have lost count of the new warehouses.
Yeah. No, the warehouses are crazy. I see them everywhere.
I
Um,
have never seen so many warehouses in my life. It's incredible. Um,
and
and then Pembroke is where we have it's in North Bryan County, which is west of Savannah, for those of you who aren't familiar. But North Bryan County has a huge Hyundai plant coming in, and they just announced, I believe, a battery plant going in across 16 from that. I don't know if you heard that, but they're saying it's a huge battery plant going in.
I haven't seen it, but I have drove by all of that down there on 16, and it is just warehouses for miles.
Yes, absolutely. Growth is
Miles.
here. People are coming to Southeast.
A lot of jobs and a lot of people that need houses,
Yes, they need housing, they need commercial space, they need warehouses,
and there's
and
not
that's we're
enough
here.
money.
We are all about it. We're ready. Well, Chandler, taking you back to short-term rentals, I know you had spoken about this earlier. I I'm an agent here in Savannah, and also we both manage short-term rentals at Sid was here. So we're very dialed into this market. And I love to know what's going on nationally as well. So it's important to know your market that you're in. And it's also important to see what's coming, because investors, the more we can see around the corner, the better we can prepare ourselves in our portfolios. So I talk short-term rentals a lot just because I have a lot of clients from out of state that'll come, and they come through me because they want an agent that understands what they're trying to buy, who's also
Mhm.
an investor, and then they also need management. So I try to stay on top of this. The other thing that I do personally is I run a lot of groups for other real estate investors, and specifically those looking at short-term rentals. And I'm always asking them, what's going on in your market? What's going on in your market? And I've been hearing for a while from the people in these groups, that they're having a hard time. And we had the Super Bowl in Phoenix back in February. And at the same exact time, they had this giant golf tournament. So there were people in Arizona. I'm sorry, I'm gonna back up. Arizona is a state where the government has regulated that you cannot outlaw short-term rentals. You can't dictate what someone does on their own property, basically. So they can't stop homeowners from getting short-term rentals. So that's been in place, for a while. Short-term rentals have been growing. And then once they announced the Super Bowl, plus this golf tournament, plus, Phoenix is a great market anyway, people like to vacation there.
Yep.
So they've been really blowing up. So back in, I'm going to say January, I was on a call with this property manager in Phoenix. She manages over 100 units. They're a very good size operation. And she said, I think I'm going to go out of business. She said, all these people thought they were going to make $12,000 to $15,000 the week of the Super Bowl, and they're sitting empty, and I can't get them booked. And what happened is it was just supply and demand. Everybody heard the same thing. They all went into the market, and then nobody started making the numbers. The people that came out okay with the Super Bowl dropped their prices back down to a regular rate, say $200 a night, and they were able to get booked. But we had a big bust out in Arizona recently. I'm not sure if anyone's aware of this. And I know we're here to talk about Savannah, and I'll get there. But I thought that was very interesting. So just in the last 4 weeks, I spoke to another short-term rental investor in Phoenix, and he said it's a fire sale. He said, you can't give away the furniture. Everyone's taking it out. If you can't pay your mortgage, it's not an investment space that you want to be in. So anyone that's even considering short-term rentals, I just want to say, I can't say this loud enough. You never put together a short-term rental for one event ever. It's not going to pay your bills. Like that's a really, like, let's say the Olympics were coming to Savannah tomorrow. Would we make money? Yes, but I would not put 14 houses on the market just for that one event, because again, everyone else is going to do that. So you're going to have this giant thing of supply. Getting into a short-term rental is not free. It is multiple thousands of dollars to get it rent ready. We need furniture, we need internet. These are things you're going to be stuck with. So in Phoenix, he said they're just giving away the furniture. They're trying to convert everything to long-term rentals. And now they have a glut on the market of long-term rentals because a lot of people are shutting down their short-term rentals. So I knew this was going on in certain markets. I am going to get to my story, but so just recently I pulled some national data and I thought it was very interesting. I stay in tune with a lot of data sources that do data for short-term rentals because we pull pricing. We price for our owners right with the market. If the pricing goes up, we go up. If the pricing goes down, we go down. We're automated. So these were the key industry takeaways I wanted to share with you all. 2021 and 2022 witnessed mass growth of short-term rental supply. Okay, so supply went way up. An oversaturated market and an inflation have caused lower U.S. average daily rates. Okay, so supply went up, demand went up some, but they've had to reduce, the rates just to stay competitive. So for the first time now in 2023, we're seeing supply fall for the very first time. It's been going up, 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 and now it is starting to fall, and it continues to decrease. They're saying guest demand remains strong, suggesting a positive year ahead. But we are having, that will help as others go out of the market. That does help. So we did see that in Savannah too. As supply has gone up, pricing has had to go down a little bit just to stay competitive. What are your thoughts on this as we see, supply kind of go up and down? Short-term rentals are very popular. What are you seeing, Chandler?
I mean, I see the same thing. I bet there's plenty of other cities other than just Phoenix that this happened to.
Yeah.
I mean, it's happening everywhere. One thing I want to add in is I think a lot of people just bought and just threw furniture in there and didn't have any clue what they were doing. I think these platforms are now like kind of steering towards experience stays, make sure they're cool, Instagram worthy, all that kind of stuff. But I think the ones that are struggling are the ones that just went in there, threw some furniture in there real quick. They made it work in 2021 and 2022
Right.
just because there was so many people traveling. But now everybody's kind of calmed down, and I think that's one of the big things is now you have to separate yourself. You have to actually compete and make your house the best on the market.
Very true. And that costs money.
Yeah, it sure does. It sure does.
Back when I started in this industry, you could put a bed on the floor and it would rent because there just was no supply. So Savannah is unique in that we do have regulations for short-term rentals, and we've had them for many years. And in a way, that's a big advantage because that keeps you from getting priced out of the market. It keeps others from coming in and creating competition for you. Do you want to give us some info on that, Chandler? I know you know this issue inside and out.
Yeah, so we have the historic district, which is the main short-term rental market. They do have regulations. They're not giving out any more certificates now. When you buy a property, it has to be in place already, or you can buy a commercial property and they will give you a certificate if you buy commercial property. So like an apartment complex, or I know some commercial properties are doing like retail on the bottom and then above has an apartment or some sort. I think those would do really well actually. But so that's the 401, 31401. historic district, they're not giving out any more. Tybee as well. What's the zip code for that one? I go by zip codes.
31328 is Tybee. Yeah,
Tybee's
they're
also
regulated.
just came in and was like, hey, we're not giving out any, which I know has some people not too happy. Not too happy.
If you own a property with the certificate in place, a non-owner occupied short-term rental certificate in place, it's very valuable. So I've had a couple people that I know move into them, and I'm like, you have to keep that certificate. Like, don't let that go. So you've got to, at least for Tybee, you have to run it 3 months out of the
Yeah.
year. They're going to get, if they don't get taxes on it, they are going to take it.
Mhm.
The other thing too, I wanted to mention, which is, I don't even want to mention it because people get excited, but it's just, it is what it is. But in the historic district, you can get an owner occupied short-term rental certificate, but it is so complicated. You have to, it has to be a multifamily property, and the owner has to live in it full time, and they have to declare it on their tax records as their private permanent residence, and
Mhm.
have a homestead exemption. They have to have their driver's license. They're like, it is complicated. It is completely doable, but it's complicated. They also have to occupy the main unit of the home. So if you have a, very common here, a house and a carriage house, you, a Chandler, would need to occupy the main house, and then you could rent the carriage house. We have owners that live in unit A and they rent out unit B, for example. That's fine if it's a half and half, but that's the one exception, but it's very difficult to get. They really don't make it that easy on you.
Yeah, no, we've just gone through that, and it's real tough.
Very tough. And this lady had lived in the home as her primary residence for over 30 years, and they still were like, does she really? And we were like, yes, she's elderly. Like, anyway, it was a heavy lift getting that sucker through, but we did it for her, and we're
Yeah,
happy about that. But
doing well.
doing very well. What about the outskirts, Chandler? If you're not in the 31401 zip code, what are your options?
So outskirts, there's some zip codes that don't allow it, but there are some that do, and those are more valuable too because we do a lot of long shorts, which is super helpful. And if you can do the hybrid approach, it's really nice to go into. The hybrid approach. What we call is you can either do 30 nights or more, or you can turn it into a short-term rental when there's a little gap or something. But 31404 is 30 nights or more, right?
Yes, anything outside of the city. Well, if it's in the city limits of Savannah, which 31404, that's one of my favorite zip
Yep.
codes. It's in the city limits, but you can legally rent 30 days or more. So we call that a long short. So
Yeah.
we have a lot that do well there, but it's nice to have that option. So if you're in the
Yeah.
outskirts, if you look at the property ID on the tax record, if it starts with a 2, the number 2, that's in the city limits. And if it starts with the number 1, that's on the outskirts. So it's still gonna say Savannah, Georgia on your mailing address, but it's technically not in the city. You only get one tax bill.
Yeah.
So it is possible to get like a Chatham County short-term rental certificate, in the outskirts, or like Richmond Hill or Poole, or, you can do short-term rentals there legally. You
Yeah.
have to be careful and know what you're doing.
Yeah. It's not a
That's
short-term
good.
rental market, but it is always nice to have that option to short-term rent and long-term rent.
Right. Those are right. Exactly. And as we're looking at the market go up and down, I want to say that's why it's just so important that you buy the property correctly. I personally don't purchase a property unless it'll work as a long-term rental. Even if I plan to use it as a short-term rental, that's great. But if you can only pay your mortgage on short-term rental numbers, you just want to be very, very, very careful with that as an investment strategy.
Yep. Yep. Know your numbers, run your numbers. What we use AirDNA,
Mhm.
and the super AirDNA has been really good. Just be real careful. Don't try to I feel like a lot of people is they try to make their numbers work. They're like, oh, you know what? I don't have to add that, or maybe we can get around that. But no, run your numbers, do everything, maintenance, and if it works, make that offer. Don't try to force it to work. I think that's what a lot of people are doing is they're forcing it to work, and then they'll go to property managers and they're like, "Oh, up our rates," and then it doesn't book, and so nothing works when you have to do all that. So run your numbers, make sure it works. Don't force them to work. And I think you'll be just fine because demand
Absolutely.
is there in Savannah. People are traveling like crazy to Savannah.
Mhm.
Savannah's a good destination market. People like coming downtown, River Street, Broughton Street. Um, so another thing is hotels are also building. So that's a good sign that people are
True.
traveling.
Yeah, well, and I appreciate you saying that because they're actually doubling the size of the Civic Center. Not the Civic Center. I'm so sorry. The what is it called on Hutchinson Island?
It's
The
not,
convention center is
oh,
doubling in
really?
size. Yes. So that is a big boost for the hotels. That's why we're seeing a lot of hotels go up. And that will help boost the short-term rental numbers because the historic district is right there. Hutchinson Island is right across the Savannah River from the historic district, and they have free ferries that go back and forth all day long. So it's very easy for a guest to stay in the historic district at one of our short-term rentals and then take the ferry over to their convention. They can also stay at the convention center if they want to as well. But that's tourism is moving up in Savannah for sure. As soon as we have this
Like,
capability, we can take a lot bigger conventions. So that's a really big deal. Again, that makes those short-term rental certificates very, very valuable to have.
yeah, we've been sitting in some meetings and just listening to what they're doing in Savannah. It seems like they are really pushing hard to get people here. Like I didn't know, like behind the scenes, what they do to try to get people here to visit.
Yes,
But they are pushing hard to get a lot,
absolutely.
and it's working.
Chandler and I both work with the Board of Tourism and the Visit Savannah group, and it has been so informational. We are always trying to stay ahead of this market and keep our finger on tap. And we're the only short-term rental people that show up. We haven't seen anybody else there, have we, Chandler?
No, I haven't seen anybody. Bunch of
It's
hotel people.
us, the hotels, and a lot of tourism places. But it's been fantastic. And because of us going to those meetings, we actually have a new partnership coming up for our guests for some of the biggest tourist destinations in town. We're going to be able to offer special discounts because they stayed through Sid was here. And it's just been a really great networking opportunity. I'm excited for what's coming.
Yeah, for sure. Just keep learning, kind of pivoting with the market. I think that's key.
Mhm.
Learn what's going on and be able to pivot. And I think that's what separates the successful people in
Yes.
a business.
And knowledge is power. And one thing I love about being a real estate investor is the more informed you are, the better you're going to do. And that's
Mhm.
what Chandler and I are here to do is kind of keep everyone informed of the market, what's coming, what do we see coming. With stocks and bonds, if Chandler were to text me and go, hey, I know for a fact, blah, blah, blah is going up tomorrow. I can't, that's insider trading. But in real estate, that it's okay. He can text me all day long. Hey, they're about to build a giant, Honda plant in Midway. I can legally go buy everything I can get my hands on in Midway because he told me that information. It's okay.
Yeah.
So that's why we've created this podcast is to kind of teach everyone about the market, but also, hey, this is what we're hearing. This is what we're seeing. Our ears are to the ground at all times, and we're very proud of that
Yeah, we do talk about it every day. Hey, what's going on? What can we do better? Because I feel like it does change every day.
every day.
This is going on, but yeah, stay tuned to listen for some more. We'll be coming out weekly, episode number 3. Thank you for tuning in. If you enjoyed this episode, please like, comment, subscribe, share, leave a review. That really helps us. And follow us on social media at Sid Was Here. And if you have any other questions or want to give us a call, go to sidwashere.com and send a text and say, hey, I have a question for you, and we'll get back to you. Thanks for joining.
Thank you so much.